is here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. How you be? Well, we're going to go over a lot this evening, but I thought I'd start somewhere about immigration. Oh, Mark, immigration, stay with me. The Democrats are a conga line of buffoons telling us that they want to get rid of ICE, that they're going to shut down the government if ICE isn't controlled. In other words, if their future constituency and their future citizen children are deported, they're going to shut down the government. This has been their big plan. We've talked about it for years, and here it is. But I wanted to give you some facts and some law about the nature of deporting people, due process and so forth. You hear people throw these terms around, and they're lying to you. Our friend Hans von Spakovsky, expert in this area, has written about it. I've written about it myself, but I like the way he summarizes it. Immigration cases are civil rather than criminal proceedings, and aliens have limited due process rights as defined by Congress and Supreme Court precedents. Now, those rights differ depending on whether aliens are trying to enter this country or are already here, legally or illegally, as well as their visa or other status. It's all there in federal law. Now, federal immigration statutes bar aliens from asserting certain claims in federal courts, excuse me, prohibit any federal court from reviewing specified federal government actions, such as the Attorney General's enforcement of deportation orders. Let me stop at that comma. Congress has strictly limited the role of federal courts in deportation matters. Got it? And the reason is they didn't want to bog down the federal court system and 770 federal trial judges with immigration cases, or nothing else could be heard in the federal judiciary. So the ability to go to federal court is extremely limited. And often when these radical left-wing lawyers dressed up as judges, some of them should be wearing white robes and hoods, but they wear black robes. That's right, them. They give standing and they hear cases that they're really not even supposed to hear in many cases. And limit which federal courts have jurisdiction over particular alien claims. Federal courts assuming jurisdiction over such banned, prohibited, or limited claims are violating federal law. Got that? Now, some critics of the Trump administration's enforcement of federal immigration law, including members of the public, the media, and Congress, have made misleading claims about the due process rights that apply in immigration proceedings. Those who claim that non-citizens, referred to in our nation's immigration laws as aliens, are entitled to the full panoply of constitutional rights enjoyed by American citizens are flatly wrong and fail to differentiate between criminal prosecutions and immigration proceedings the latter of which are civil proceedings. As provided by Congress and by some court decisions interpreting the Constitution, aliens have only limited due process rights in immigration proceedings. Quite limited. Those rights differ depending on the alien's status and whether he or she is outside the United States and trying to enter this country, already in the country, legally or illegally. In fact, several federal immigration statutes specifically bar aliens from even asserting certain claims in federal courts. Federal courts assuming jurisdiction over such claims by aliens are violating federal law, and any orders they issue ought to be declared void or invalid by an appellate court. And regardless of their legal status, aliens, aka foreigners, are entitled to the same constitutional due process rights provided to criminal defendants, who are citizens when they are being criminally prosecuted for assault, rape, burglary, kidnapping, murder, or other crimes. However, immigration proceedings to bar an alien's entry or to remove or deport, that is, deport and remove are synonymous in federal immigration law, an alien present inside the United States are not criminal proceedings. As the Supreme Court first outlined in 1893 in Feng Yu Ting versus U.S., a decision in which it rejected habeas corpus petitions filed by Chinese citizens who claimed they were being unlawfully detained by U.S. Marshals, quote, without due process of law, unquote. The immigration proceeding is in no proper sense a trial and sentence for a crime or offense. It is simply the ascertainment by appropriate and lawful means of the fact whether the conditions exist upon which Congress has enacted that an alien of this particular class may remain within the country. The order of deportation is not a punishment for crime. It is but a method of enforcing the return to his own country of an alien who has not complied with the conditions upon the performance of which the government of the nation, acting within its constitutional authority and through the proper departments, has determined that his continuing to reside here shall depend on what it shall depend, I should say. That's the court's decision in 1893. Now, the court added an alien being removed by the government is not being deprived of life, liberty, or property. I'm quoting from the decision. And that the provisions of the Constitution securing the right to trial by jury and prohibiting unreasonable searches and seizures and cruel and unusual punishments, therefore, have no application of any kind. Now, that is also why federal immigration officers do not need a warrant issued by a judge before arresting and detaining aliens, and why aliens are not entitled to be advised of their Miranda rights or to the assistance of a government-appointed lawyer during their deportation proceedings. That's a 1966 Supreme Court decision, Miranda versus Arizona. You may have heard of it. The Supreme Court held that under the Fifth Amendment, due process, criminal defendants must be warned that they have a right to be silent, that anything they say can be used against them in a court of law, that they are entitled to an attorney, and that if they cannot afford an attorney, one has to be appointed by the government to represent them before they can be questioned. The fact that the removal process is a civil proceeding was reaffirmed by the Supreme Court in 2010 in Padilla versus Kentucky. Miranda has nothing to do with it. Civil proceeding. The court held in that case that a criminal defense attorney provided ineffective assistance of counsel when he misinformed his client, a permanent resident alien charged with transporting drugs, of the possible immigration consequences of pleading guilty. Now, while that guilty plea in his criminal prosecution made his deportation virtually mandatory under federal immigration law, the court noted it had long recognized that deportation is particularly severe penalty, but it is not, in a strict sense, a criminal sanction. The court emphasized that removal proceedings are civil in nature. INS versus Lopez Mendoza, 1984. Stick with me. Then you're going to see how outrageous the media have been, outrageous these Democrats are, and these Democrat judges. Aliens are not even entitled to the protection of the ex post facto clause of the Constitution. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 3 provides that no ex post facto law shall be passed by Congress, that is, after the fact law. Ex post facto laws impose criminal punishments on conduct that was lawful when it was done. In 1954, in a case involving the deportation of an alien who'd been a member of the Communist Party, before such membership had been a deportable offense, the Supreme Court held that, and I quote, "It has been the unbroken rule of this court that the ex post facto clause has no application to deportation." Why? Raise your hand, because it's a civil proceeding against an alien. Galvin versus Press, 1954. The alien was a member of the Communist Party from 1944 to 46, and membership in the Communist Party was not made a deportable offense until Congress passed the Internal Security Act in 1950. Aliens also cannot claim selective prosecution when they are contesting removal. 1999, Reno versus American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee. The court ruled that an alien unlawfully in this country has no constitutional right to assert selective enforcement as a defense against his deportation. So the due process rights in civil immigration proceedings are very limited, as outlined and defined by Congress in federal immigration laws and the procedural rules promulgated by an attorney general for the conduct of federal immigration proceedings. In addition, federal immigration courts are not Article III courts in which judges must be confirmed by the Senate. They're bureaucrats. They are administrative courts within the Department of Justice. We call them immigration judges. They're not federal judges at all. In fact, I would argue they're not judges at all. They are employees of the Department of Justice who are selected by the Attorney General and who act as the Attorney General's delegates in the cases that come before them. So when you hear about an immigration judge, these are bureaucrats appointed by an Attorney General who work in and for the Department of Justice. Now, aliens attempting to... let me take a break and continue. Is this useful, Mr. Producer? I just want you to know what we're dealing with these Democrats and these phony protesters. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
"23 years ago today, Daniel Pearl was kidnapped by Al-Qaeda operatives, KSM. KSM was given safe haven, an apartment, and a job by Qatar. Qatar. 23 years ago. Before they slit his throat and decapitated him on camera, they said, convert to Islam. His final words were, my father's Jewish, my mother's Jewish, I am Jewish, my family follows Judaism. And they sawed off his neck, his head, for the whole world to see. I've just posted, I believe it's up now, a video that I want you to look at on my social sites. It's very difficult. It's of a young woman, maybe she's 18, 20 years old, could be your daughter, could be your granddaughter. Some subhuman throws her to the ground, steps on her head, kicks her, drags her, then pulls out a machete, and the video cuts off. This is what's happening in Iran. The estimate now, from the best estimates, are 43,000 people murdered. 43,000 people in 3.5 weeks. 43,000. A football stadium of people. And they're accelerating. They're accelerating. 43,000. 330,000 injured. God knows how many are in prisons. Look at that video. Send it to everybody you know. Send it to the president. Send it to the Senate. Send it to the House of Representatives. Send it to Democrats. Send it to Republicans. I don't care. I see this. I think of my daughter, my granddaughter. I think, my God, these disgusting monsters. It's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Look at that video. Did you see that video, Mr. Producer? That poor thing, that poor girl. For doing what? Wasn't violent. Marching, walking. They're also just grabbing anybody off the street now. I tell you, I don't pray a lot, but I'm praying that this regime is taken down, that Khomeini is taken out. It's not going to be that easy, I understand. It's going to be difficult. Khomeini has to go. The way this is set up, and you'll see this on Sunday night's Life, Liberty, and Levin. The regime isn't just a regime with various institutions or anything like that. They've created circles and inner circles of individuals with various degrees of power. And all the power ultimately belongs to Khomeini. The regime exists for Khomeini and his sons. I will get back to immigration, but it just turns my stomach. You got to go look at this. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin, radio's hell-raising intellectual. Call now, 877-381-3811.
You think this problem's just over there? I'm going to make a slight detour. We'll circle back on immigration, but I go where I go. I want you to listen to this Imam Sheikh Uthman Ibn Farouk, based in California, a so-called Islamic scholar. I want you to listen to this. In the United States, spreading his filth, his hate, his cancer, far and wide. And unfortunately, not all, of course, but a lot of these mosques that are used by these Islamists are really used to spread the revolution against the West, against the United States. That's their primary purpose. And these imams, what they do is they put a religious patina around what they're doing. So God is calling on people, you see, to destroy this country. Cut 5, go.
How is have intimacy, nice English there, how is have intimacy with a slave not adultery and halal, but having intimacy with a non-slave adultery?
When you have an intimate relationship with your wife, or a woman with her husband, is that adultery? Well, no. Why is it not adultery? Because Allah made it halal. That's why. Right? Why is it that if somebody is not married and they have intimate relations, marital relations, that's considered zina, adultery, because Allah made that haram? That is the line between halal and haram. Zina and not zina, adultery and not adultery, right? So, Allah made the spousal relations between a husband and wife halal. And Allah made that those people taken under war, not regularly under war, as captives who were trying to kill you, that now you're going to support and keep in your house and spend on and treat well, that this is like a wife. This is somebody who you can have those relationships with. So if Allah made it halal, that is not zina. That is not adultery because Allah made it halal. That's the line.
Allah made it ha, which means you can have sex slaves. That's what he's saying. Is that not what he's saying, Mr. Producer? You can have sex slaves, you see. If it's a war, or if you believe it's a war, like with protesters, well, of course. You can abuse the women, you can have sex with the women, and then you can kill the women. That's in the United States, in California right there. As we hear more of this, I'm going to play it for you. Here we have Muhammad Nasriat, a Chicago Islamic scholar. An Islamic scholar, quote unquote. This is a couple of months ago. In Chicago. Cut 4, go.
Unfortunately, these days we don't repeat this enough, or we don't have this aqidah concept firm in our minds that Islam did not come to coexist. Islam la yu'la. Al-Islam ya'lu wa la yu'la alayh. And Islam is raised high and nothing is raised above Islam. We can't think of Islam that it came to live with these other religions, in the sense that Islam is a religion amongst those religions, and they have a share with the truth. And they have a share of justice. And they have a share of, this worship of Allah, the correct worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Islam came to correct all of that. Islam came to remove the oppression of all those religions. And it is the only truth, and it is the only way to justice.
You understand? How did this man get into my country? Our country. You understand why I say it's incompatible with the Judeo-Christian belief system? It's incompatible with our Declaration. It's incompatible with the Constitution and our Bill of Rights. It's about conquering and destroying the West and the United States in particular. That's what it is. That's a so-called scholar in Chicago. And you heard the imam in California. I've got scores of these. And the Democrat Party comes to the defense of this. That you can't deport people. You can't remove people. And so the cancer spreads. No live and let live. It's you live the way I say or you die. Seems to me that's problematic. I may be the only one talking the truth about this stuff. I don't know. But it has to be done. Somebody's got to speak out. Do you want to live in an Iran? Do you want to live in a Qatar? Do you want to live in a Saudi Arabia? Do you want to live with a Hamas? Islamic Jihad, the Muslim Brotherhood, the Taliban. The greatest country on the face of the earth. We open our arms to Omar, to Talib, to these imams and the others. And look what they want to do. No, I'm not overstating it. Obviously, there are Muslims who don't think this way. We're talking about whatever percentage it is that do, and they shouldn't be here. They should be removed. But we have radical left-wing Democrat judges. We have a Democrat Party that has created this militia through NGOs and billionaires and the rest, who have the media behind them, who are trying to destroy ICE, who are not going to shut down the government unless we control ICE. Not these bastards who are talking about overthrowing our country, raping women, destroying every other faith. These Democrats, Swalwell, Newsom, Pritzker, Pantzer, whatever his name is, all of them, this is what they're defending. Mondami, for God's sakes. It's no joke. Why do you think they're killing Christians in Africa? That's the belief system. Why do you think they're killing Muslims in Yemen who don't go along? Why do you think they're killing all these beautiful young people in Iran? Don't hand me Qatar. They can go to hell. Don't hand me Saudi Arabia. They can go to hell. They attacked us on 9/11. No, I'm not going to forget it. And these swine, these pigs, these phony podcasters and influencers who are in the back pocket of these regimes. Oh, sure, there's no problem. Sure, why shouldn't Iran have nuclear weapons? Those are traitors. Traitors! That's what they are. That's what they are. Look at your children and your grandchildren. What kind of future are they going to have in this country? The Democrats with the midterm elections, and they're going to spend their entire time trying to cripple Donald Trump as he's trying to protect this nation. It's all they care about. They don't care who they let into this country. They intend to protect them because they want power. They don't care if the power comes from Marxists, Islamists. They don't care. They don't care. Because the party comes first. Their power comes first. They obviously hate the country, but they love their power, which they get through the party. They don't get it through the Constitution. Here in Virginia, Democrats take over. Within 24 hours, they want to change the voting system so they can't lose. Massive tax increases on working people. Working people. Then they want to increase the brackets on wealthy people. Why do they copy these failed states like California and New York and New Jersey and Illinois? Because of power, that's why. They want Republicans to leave. They want businesses to leave. They want a pliant population. That's what they want. When we talk about the Constitution, limited government, individual liberty, the sovereignty of the individual, in one ear and out the other. The Marxists don't care. The Islamists don't care. What do you mean limited government? God tells us to crush you. That's their thinking. And for the Marxists, they wave around the Constitution in order to destroy it. In order to destroy it. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
I'm going to finish this immigration matter on Monday. I'm not in the mood now to do it. We will do it. Just so you understand that ICE is following the law, that the media are liars, that the Democrat Party are hoodlums, that they don't care about the American people. They hate the country. All they want is power. It's like what Michelle Obama said, now she feels good about the country. Why? Because her husband won the election. Other than that, she didn't feel good about the country. Now she goes around making an ass out of herself with the dumbest comments imaginable. It's a great country. We're great people, and we're under attack. By people who hate us, who want to control us, who want to destroy our faiths and our way of life. And people in Virginia, they voted for Democrats, most of whom position themselves as moderates. Right out of the box. DEI, they want to teach your elementary school students all kinds of perversion about sex and mutilation and, of course, everybody that's been abused and discriminated against and on and on and on. America sucks. And that's what you're going to get, K through 12. And you better pay your property tax bill, which has gone through the roof. They're going to raise income taxes. They're going to make it miserable. Then they'll blame Trump, and they'll talk about affordability. That's what they do. That's what they do. Electricity bills, I just saw an analysis, are through the roof. in Democrat states. Almost exclusively in Democrat states. If you live there, you pay more for electricity than anywhere else. Why? Because they reduce the amount of electricity they produce. That's why. And that's intentional. That is a man-made event. So if you lose your electricity during this storm, well then, who are you going to blame? Climate change? Why don't you blame the culprits, the Democrats? It was an honor to be interviewed the other day on what they call Iran International TV, which is really in opposition to the regime there. And I have to say, Fardad Farazad, who interviewed me, was superb. He was a real journalist. Wasn't a suck-up or anything like that. He was a real journalist, and he did a fantastic job. And I think we may play a little bit of that as time goes on. Zorha Mandami comes to the defense of Mahmoud Khalil. Remember this? This lowlife lied his way into the country. The Secretary of State stepped in and said, all right, you're out of here. A lower federal judge, a radical Democrat lawyer dressed up as a judge in a black robe, said, no, you can't do that. He didn't even have authority to do that. So an appellate court panel, 2 out of the 3 judges, excuse me, said, no, you don't have the authority, lower court judge. The Secretary of State does. And adios, muchacho, to Mahmoud Khalil, who basically was a mouthpiece for Hamas. A wonderful contributor. And of course, what about the First Amendment? What about, hey, these are immigration laws. This guy lied his way in on his visa. Now get your ass out of my country. Get your ass out of my country. And he will. Here's Zoran Mandami. He ought to get his ass out of my country, too. Cut 6, go.
Mahmoud Khalil is a New Yorker.
No, he's not a New Yorker, you jerk. You liar. You. Go ahead.
Mahmoud Khalil is a New Yorker. He should remain in New York City.
And the clapping seals.
We have seen this attack on him as part of a larger attack on the freedom of speech that is
now listen to me. Listen how they do the freedom of speech. Tell me one Islamist country, I didn't say Muslim generally, Islamist country where you have freedom of speech. In Iran, they're slaughtered 43,000 people. 43,000 people in less than a month. Freedom of speech? You have freedom of speech in Saudi Arabia? No, not if you don't want to get your head cut off. How about Qatar? No, of course not. Not if you don't want your limbs cut off. Freedom of speech. This man dares to talk to us about freedom of speech. It's not about freedom of speech. He's here illegally, you schmuck. Go ahead.
It comes to the use of that speech to stand up for Palestinian human rights.
Oh, that's it. Human rights. This phrase, Palestinian human rights, I find to be very bizarre. When I think of the Fatah party and Hamas party, who were elected by Palestinians, both elected, I don't think of human rights. Do you, Mr. Producer? Human rights, yes. When it comes to Islamists, don't you think of human rights, America? Especially when it comes to women, huh? Don't you think by the way, where are all these left-wing women's groups? You know, they used to burn their bras and bounce around town and all. Where are they? Nowhere. Zero. Where are the women in Congress? Nowhere. Zero. Except Tlaib and Omar and their ilk. They're on side of the women abusers. Which is cultural. This jerk talks about free speech and human rights? Go ahead.
And I will make that clear to everyone, and I have said it time and again, that he deserves to stay in the city. He deserves to be in the city just like any other New Yorker.
Based on what, moron? Based on what? He's been here a few years. He lied on his visa. He's not a student. He participated in these riots that took place. He's using talking points from Hamas. He's had his quote-unquote day in immigration court. He's to be removed. Secretary of State says he's to be removed. But Zoran Mandani wants him to stay. Why? We all know why. Part of the revolution. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Big Friday, ladies and gentlemen. Much of the country is going to see some very nasty weather. I think starting tomorrow night, Sunday morning, depending on where you are. And we'll see if it comes to fruition. I wish it wouldn't, quite frankly, but I fear it will. You know, these lies are put out about ICE, about detentions, and they get front page coverage, they get headlines, they get commentators all day long on MSLSD now, on the Constipated News Network, and other places. And then, as quickly as possible, ICE, the Border Patrol, or DHS, or whomever, tries to set the record straight. And it goes to the back pages and so forth and so on. Marcos Charles is the ICE acting executive associate director. He had to have a press conference today to talk about the alleged detention of a 5-year-old. It even sucked in some Republicans who said we shouldn't be detaining 5-year-olds. That's not what happened. That's not what happened. Now, people need to start using common sense and understand that these ICE agents are American citizens. They're patriotic. They're parents and grandparents. They love this country. They love children. They're humane, which is why they take up this job in order to remove people who aren't supposed to be here, including killers and rapists and child predators and on and on and on. And you literally have Democrats like AOC and others. Richard Blumenthal, who say they are not going to fund the government unless, in the case of AOC, ICE is defunded. And in the case of Blumenthal, ICE is severely controlled. Now listen to this. Here's Marcos Charles of ICE having to deal with this lie about this 5-year-old. Cut 8, go.
This week, ICRO conducted targeted enforcement operation to arrest Adrian Alexander Conejo Arias, an illegal alien who was released back into the interior of the United States by the previous administration. When officers approached Conejo Arias, he and his child were in a vehicle. Arias fled from law enforcement on foot, abandoning his child in the middle of winter in a vehicle. One of our officers stayed behind with that child while other officers apprehended his father. After conducting the arrest, my officers stayed with the child. They cared for him, took him to get something to eat from a drive-through restaurant, and spent hours ensuring he was taken care of. Again, my officers did that, not his father. My officers did everything they could to reunite him with his family. Tragically, when we approached the door of his residence, the people inside refused to take him in and open the door. Let me say it again. They saw the young boy, and they refused to open the door and take him back.
You got that? Tell me, is that how you would conduct yourself? Even if you were an illegal alien, would you leave your son behind? And then would your family not take the son in the house? Just listen to these lies. They're just disgusting. And then listen to how the Democrats speak. Listen to what they do. A senator from Connecticut, Richard Blumenthal, cut 9 on the show with Joe Scarborough, who should know better, who should be at least informed enough to challenge him. Go ahead.
I'm a no vote on that spending bill unless there are conditions that require ICE to go to a judge to get a warrant, as well as other kinds of
Now let's stop for a minute. I just read to you that the law today is you don't have to go to a judge to get a warrant. Now I want you to think about this. There are tens of millions of illegal aliens in this country. If you have to go to a federal judge to get a warrant, these courts are going to be backed up every day, 10 hours a day, with immigration cases. He wants to increase the standard of due process for illegal aliens. I presume all illegal aliens, including murderers and rapists and the rest of it. So when he says they need to get a warrant, he doesn't mean a warrant from an administrative law judge, which is what these immigration judges are. He means a formal warrant from a federal judge. So in essence, what Blumenthal is doing, and they're too stupid on the Morning Schmo show to challenge him on this, is he's making the apprehension and deportation of these people an impossibility. An absolute impossibility. Then you have Ro Khanna, who is a con man. This POS went to my same law school, Temple. Then I guess he decided to go west, young man, go west. He represents part of Silicon Valley, and he is a radical kook who first came to Congress pretending to be a moderate. Well, he's thrown that away. He is a radical kook. And now they want you to believe that ICE is going after American citizens and purposely going after American citizens. Now, I want you to think this through. You work for ICE. You have one of these administrative warrants. You're trying to get a killer, somebody who has sodomized an 8-year-old, somebody like that. You're going into the community. Whistles are blowing because now they have a whole procedure in place. iPhones are on. You're trying to get to the door to apprehend the illegal alien who's done other crimes. There's a lot of confusion. You're apprehending a number of people. And maybe you get an American citizen who's later released, of course. They're creating the environment to make it impossible to do this as efficiently as it can be done. For example, if local law enforcement were given the authority to work with ICE, they would tell the ICE agent, hey, Frank, yes, Manuela's over there. That's where he lives. We know where he lives. Thank you. And he'd go and get Manuel. Hey, Frank, yes, Muhammad is over there. Okay, over there. Okay, gotcha. Hey, Frank, yeah, Ernie is over there. Yeah, that is address. Yeah, we checked it. That's him. And even before you get to their homes, before they're released from state or local jails, ICE would be contacted. They would be told, hey, look, we have them in our jails. We've apprehended them. We are letting them out. They've served their time. You can pick them up here. But they won't do it. They're making it as difficult as possible for these ICE agents. Then you have the thugs. Some are paid, some are not, but many are. Using cars, using bullhorns, trying to obstruct law enforcement from doing their job with warrants. With administrative warrants. Now here's Ro Khanna. Cut 10. Go.
Almost all the Democrats under Hakeem Jeffries' leadership voted no. The ICE funding is triple what it was under Joe Biden.
Gee, I wonder why. I wonder why. I wonder why, Roe. Because he let 20 million illegals into the country? They're so upset that the president is trying to find these people and remove them, that we have patriotic American citizens who sign up for these jobs, these extremely difficult jobs, and they don't make a lot of money, to try and apprehend these individuals and remove them from the country by enforcing and executing federal law. And then you get this huckster, this carnival barker, this political demagogue, Ro Khanna, like Richard Blumenthal and the rest of this Hate America crowd. Go ahead.
Officers who are taking away Americans' freedom. I was at an event, 200-some people came up in a photo line. One Latino American came up to me, no accent, and he said, "Ro, I've got to tell you something." And he opened his coat and he showed me his passport. People are so afraid in this country.
Are you afraid? Are you afraid, folks? Are you afraid? It's funny, he says, people are showing us their passports. Now, this is the same party that demands identification for everything other than citizenship. Everything. Everything. Except citizenship. Meaning voting, among other things. God forbid. So the guy doesn't have to walk around with a passport. And just because he thinks he does, that's his problem. How many of you walk around with a passport? How many of you listening to this show are Hispanic walking around with a passport? Probably none of you. But if there's one of you, that's your problem. There's no reason to. I already told you almost half of the agents at ICE, maybe over half, are Hispanic. Go ahead.
As a son of immigrants, I understand that. They are not going just after undocumented immigrants. They are not just going after legal immigrants. They are going after American citizens.
No, they're not going after Americans. You're such a lying. You're such a bucket of crap. It's not even funny. First, you and your ilk on the left, you make it impossible for them to track down people and to pick up these people. Then you bring out your militia, much of it paid, to obstruct what these patriots are trying to do on behalf of the federal government and the law and the communities. Then you claim that they're going after Americans. You're such a lying sack of crap. It's not even funny. You jerk. But don't worry, he's the son of immigrants. We're all the son or grandchildren of immigrants. What is that, a badge of honor? We either are or we aren't. That's a great thing. We came to this country for what? I don't know about you, but my ancestors didn't come here for welfare. I don't know about you, but my ancestors didn't come illegally. I don't know about you, but my ancestors, they weren't trying to figure out what they could take out of the country. They were just glad to be in a free country where they could work. Go ahead.
Fought a revolution in this country for our freedoms.
Excuse me? Excuse me? We fought a revolution in this country for our freedom. You just said you're the son of immigrants. You didn't fight anything. But that said, we didn't fight a revolution in this country for immigrants. We fought a revolution in this country for freedom. And he says, yes, we fought for freedom. Okay. Well, if there's a guy living next to you in a row house, and that guy has a criminal record, and he's from, say, Honduras, or Colombia, or the Congo, or Saudi Arabia, or China, or wherever. And he sodomized an 8-year-old 3 years ago, and then he comes into our country. Did our founders fight a revolution for that? I don't think so. These are laws that were passed by Congress. They make it act like there aren't any such laws. Well, of course there are. Then we have people like Ro Khanna, Blumenthal, and AOC. Zorhan Mandami. This is the new Democrat Party, America. This is it. This is it. They hate your guts. If you're a hardworking American citizen, you follow the law, you pay your taxes, they're going to screw you over. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
If your credit card balance is freaking you out after all the holiday spending, I have something that can save you money right now. Cut your cell phone bill in half by switching to Pure Talk Saver Plan. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, and 3 gigs of high-speed data on Pure Talk's super-fast nationwide 5G network. As a veteran-led company that cares about giving back to those who serve, if you're active or former military or a first responder, you'll save an additional 20% every single month. The easiest way to free up cash flow is to reduce your monthly recurring bills. Start with cutting overpriced wireless and switching to my wireless company. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and make the switch today in as little as 10 minutes. Again, talk, text, and data just $20 a month. That's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk is America's wireless company. Now here's AOC, better known as Sandy, that's it. Sandy the bartender. Now, some of you may say, why are you putting her down like that? You're showing her disrespect. Excuse me, she asked to be called Sandy, and she was a bartender. Why is that disrespectful? If her name was Fromby and she was a belly dancer, I'd say her name is Fromby and a belly dancer. But her name is Sandy, and she was a bartender. Look, there's a lot of great bartenders out there. I don't drink. I'll have a Diet Coke, but I do sit at a place and have dinner, and very friendly with some of the bartenders, some of the nicest people I've ever met. I'm talking about Sandy, the bartender. You know, Sandy. Sandy of Westchester. Yes. Can anybody tell me what Sandy of Westchester has actually done while she's been in Congress? Somebody? Anybody? What has she done for the people? What has she done other than run her mouth? Nothing. Nothing. Zero. Well, here she is running her mouth again outside the Capitol building. She's always outside the Capitol building. You notice that too, Mr. Producer? What's she doing? Running up and down the steps? Sandy, what are you doing outside the Capitol building all the time? I don't understand. She has a genius idea. See, they're not dismissed as kooks and morons and reprobates. No, we're going to listen to them very carefully. They have some very wise things to say, does Sandy of Westchester. Cut 11, go.
You obviously believe ICE should be abolished, but there are many in your party who are not going that far. Is that a problem for you?
I think any step in the direction of reining in and cutting the funding of an agency that is attacking U.S. citizens.
There you go. It's an agency attacking U.S. citizens. And, of course, she cares deeply about U.S. citizens, you and me. Doesn't she? Of the open border crowd. So these people get their talking points, they get their radical propaganda, and they all say the same damn thing. So now ICE is attacking American citizens. No, they're not. Go ahead.
Kidnapping 5-year-olds that are using them as bait.
See that? See that? The 5-year-old? You now know the story about the 5-year-old. And she's going to keep talking about the 5-year-old. It doesn't matter. She's a Marxist. That's right, honey. You're a Marxist. That's right. You're a Marxist. Oh, they call me a Marxist. That's the least we can call you, quite frankly. A fraud and a phony. I could call you that, too. But definitely a Marxist. And she brings up the 5-year-old. I just told you the story about the 5-year-old. Actually, the acting assistant director of ICE just told you about the 5-year-old. That the father abandoned the 5-year-old and ran, took off. Then they tried to return the 5-year-old to the residence, to the family. They wouldn't even answer the door. And then ICE made sure that the young boy was fed and watched over and taken care of, reassuring him. That's what they did with the 5-year-old, you jackass. I'll be right back. If your credit card balance is freaking you out after all the holiday spending, I have something that can save you money right now. Cut your cell phone bill in half by switching to Pure Talk Saver Plan. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, and 3 gigs of high-speed data on Pure Talk's super-fast nationwide 5G network. As a veteran-led company that cares about giving back to those who serve, if you're active or former military or a first responder, you'll save an additional 20% every single month. The easiest way to free up cash flow is to reduce your monthly recurring bills. Start with cutting overpriced wireless and switching to my wireless company. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and make the switch today in as little as 10 minutes. Again, talk, text, and data just $20 a month. That's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk is America's wireless company.
Ever notice how you come across somebody once in a while that you shouldn't have messed with? That's Mark. And you can call him at 877-381-3811.
I will be on Hannity tonight around 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Hope you'll join us. Eric Swalwell is a lowlife in every respect. You look up the word lowlife and there's his picture. He wants to get elected governor. He hasn't spent a lot of time in his state since his residence has been in Washington. But we know that Democrats don't get charged, let alone prosecuted, for mortgage fraud if they've committed it. Only you do. They say nobody's above the law, but nobody except them are above the law, of course. So here he is on the Constipated News Network today. Cut 13, go.
So what I've said as governor is I will use the powers of the office. If you're going to wear a mask as an ICE agent in your state, I will take away your driver's license. If you work for ICE...
Slow down. What's he on something? He's talking like Chris Matthews there. If a state official, a governor, tells an ICE agent, if you wear a mask, I'm going to take away your driver's license. There's not a federal court in the country, well, let me put it this way. There's not a federal appellate court, and certainly not the Supreme Court, that will allow that to stand. Because the goal in doing that is to prevent the federal employee from complying with federal law and the oath they've taken under the Constitution. So Swalwell is a lawless adulterer. That's what he is. That's what he is. Go ahead.
Unhirable in the state. If you're going to work for fascists, forget about working in the state. So
now ICE is fascistic. Now he thinks this is going to get him votes. California, for the longest time now, has been the home of illegal aliens who've had children, and now they're citizens, and now they can vote. This is how it works. So if you're a Democrat, the way to get elected is to attack viciously law enforcement, local, state, federal, to stand with illegal aliens and criminals. If you want to get elected as a Democrat, that's what you have to do. Oh, and stand with anti-Semites and other forms of bigots. That's what you got to do to get elected statewide in California. 25, 30 years ago, Swalwell would have been dismissed as a lunatic. Today, he is a lunatic, but he's a shot at being governor. Well, look at the current governor there. He's a lunatic. Go ahead.
We have to go on offense, otherwise the most vulnerable in our communities are on defense, and I urge every governor...
What does that mean, go on offense? What do you mean by that? What he means by that is what Newsom means by it, what Pritzker means by it, what all the Democrat mayors and governors mean by it. Get violent, go on offense, obstruct law enforcement. That's right, do all those things. And what does he mean the most vulnerable? The most vulnerable are the American citizens. They're the most vulnerable. They don't even know who's living in their community. How about the children that are molested and sodomized? They've been picking up a whole bunch of those. They're the most vulnerable, I would think. So Swalwell is a moron. He's a lunatic. speaks fast. He's a favorite of Nancy Pelosi, as you can imagine. And he believes that this is the way you get votes. Go ahead.
To start protecting their people in their state that way.
Do you think every ICE agent on the streets is a fascist?
I think that if you continue to work for them now, seeing what they're doing, dragging women by their hair through the streets.
Dragging women by the hair through the streets, ladies and gentlemen. Go ahead.
4-year-old battering.
Deporting a 4-year-old, battering. That's the 5-year-old he's talking about. Go ahead.
For cancer, shooting a mother in the face 3 times. If you still work for them,
shooting a mother in the face 3 times. That's the woman good he's talking about. Shooting mother. Listen to how he presents this. Listen to how he presents this. Shooting a mother in the face 3 times. The 4-year-old, stage 4 cancer. Pulling women through the street by their hair. You know, it's the criminals who do these things. Shoot mothers in the face 3 times. Brutalize little children. Brutalize women. He's got it all wrong. I despise these politicians. I despise these Democrats. I have nothing but the deepest contempt for them. The nature of politics has turned into this. Into this. Go ahead.
No one's forcing you to do that. I don't want you working in the state.
But aren't some of these guys just trying to provide for their families?
Well, there's a lot of jobs out there that don't have you terrorizing women, masked.
Do you think
so all the ICE agents are terrorizing women who are masked. This is a sick bastard. Would you try and get Swalwell on the show, Mr. Producer? And keep this clip, okay? Go ahead.
Every person in the street for ICE is terrorizing women?
I think anyone wearing a mask.
All right, that's enough. That's enough. That's enough. That's enough. This guy belongs in a padded room. A padded room in a straitjacket. Rather than on the streets running for governor. Let me ask you folks a question. I mean this earnestly. I want to ask you a question. Mr. and Mrs. America. Is not Eric Swalwell giving aid and comfort to all the enemies of America? If you're Putin, if you're Xi, if you're Un, if you're Khomeini, if you're the other, mass murdering genocidal maniacs, don't you want to use this? Swalwell, how he talks about patriotic Americans who are following the law, upholding the Constitution, putting their lives on the line to protect you. Wouldn't you want to play what Swalwell is saying about these men and women? You better believe it. And how do we know that they're not running it on their internet and so forth? Or TV or so forth? Eric Swalwell is the poster boy for the communists, for the fascists, for the Islamists. He's the poster boy for the enemies of America. All you have to do is play what he said and put it in the language of the host country. And they'll say, this is a congressman who's running for governor of the biggest state in America. And look what he's saying about America. Look what he's saying about America. This man is a disgusting disgrace. He's part of the enemy within. He slept with the enemy. And he speaks like the enemy. When you talk about America this way, when you talk about patriotic ICE agents this way, when you talk about cops this way, you're the enemy. And you're giving aid and comfort to the enemy. You're a traitor. He's a traitor. That's what he is. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
If your credit card balance is freaking you out after all the holiday spending, I have something that can save you money right now. Cut your cell phone bill in half by switching to Pure Talk Saver Plan. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, and 3 gigs of high-speed data on Pure Talk's super-fast nationwide 5G network. As a veteran-led company that cares about giving back to those who serve, if you're active or former military or a first responder, you'll save an additional 20% every single month. The easiest way to free up cash flow is to reduce your monthly recurring bills. Start with cutting overpriced wireless and switching to my wireless company. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and make the switch today in as little as 10 minutes. Again, talk, text, and data just $20 a month. That's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk is America's wireless company. I'll be on Hannity at 9:30 p.m. tonight. There's Life, Liberty, and Levin, 8 p.m. Eastern Time Saturday. There's Life, Liberty, and Levin, 8 p.m. Eastern Time Sunday. Rain or shine, sleet or snow, Mark will go. I like that. So Saturday, tomorrow night, Sunday night, I will be there. Set your DVR. That way, either way, you can watch the program. They're all brand new. And, of course, my appearance on Hannity will be brand new, too, because I haven't appeared yet. I think what's going to be crucial with this armada and everything else is that we actually take out Khomeini and his inner circle. We try and find out where they are, drop one of those big, beautiful bombs right on his head. But however they do it, he's got to go because he's the center of the spokes. He's the center of the wheel. And the way this nation has been set up, the government, I should say, is that he has himself and his sons and an inner circle of about several hundreds of people who are committed not to the country, not even to the faith, but him. Then there's a second circle that is committed to him personally, loyal to him, chosen by him in all aspects of the economy and culture, many of whom are so-called religious scholars and imams and leaders. And then there's a third circle that is the Revolutionary Guard, the intelligence services, effectively the domestic SS, as well as provincial imams and others out in the rest of the country. That's the third circle. That's the circle that does all the enforcement. The inner circle and the second inner circle give out the orders, keep track of what's going on, monitor everything that's going on, and the goal is to ensure that Khomeini is protected and in power as long as he lives. And what they preach and what they say is that his power is divine, that he exists to defend Islam from all comers, from all threats, and to expand it worldwide, and to conquer the other face, and to conquer the West. He's the center of the wheel, he's the pinnacle, he's the point of the spear. Meanwhile, he runs the place like a mobster. He and his family are extraordinarily wealthy. And so the murder of all these young people, the slaughter, shooting them in the back, kicking them in the face, and then shooting them in the head, taking out a machete and a sword, cutting off their heads, all these things are not considered political. They're not considered evil. They're considered religious, faithful to Allah. This is what they're being told. This is what they're being informed. Now, in my book on power, I talk about an individual so-called scholar in the 1960s. And this is the man who wrote the book that so many of these Islamists follow. And this man is who Khomeini became familiar with and who he identifies with. Qudus. I don't know the actual pronunciation, but that's my phonetic pronunciation. If you have On Power, take a look at the chapter. That everything in the West is an obstacle. an obstacle to serving Allah. You heard me play that so-called scholar in Chicago. That's what he said. It's not about coexistence. It's about conquering, destroying, defeating all the obstacles. We don't coexist with other faiths, he says. We destroy them. And so with that mindset, he's prepared to kill 1 million people in order to stay in power. Because you see, he is protecting Islam from all comers. And he is the one who's spreading it. He is doing as Allah tells him to do. He's called the invisible imam, which has a particularly special place, I suppose. He needs to be killed. The inner circle needs to be destroyed. As many of these people in all these circles need to be destroyed. And those who are not, they need to set up the equivalent of a Nuremberg trial process. For the commanders, for the prosecutors, for the judges who are doing this to these people. With public prosecutions for their atrocities. They need to be held to account for their genocide. That's what needs to happen. The president is pulling together the biggest military armada he possibly can, and he needs to, because it's not an easy task. And I think he's going to pull the trigger. I really do. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. We'll take calls at the bottom of the hour. You know, you're going to get a big treat the Saturday before the Super Bowl. I'm going to have one guest for 1 hour, Stephen A. Smith. And we may talk a little football and so forth, but I want to talk in a way that you learn a lot about him, because he's a unique talent. He doesn't really line up one way or another. In some ways, he's very unpredictable. He takes pride in the fact that he thinks for himself, which is a very, very important character trait to have, America. You know, you can listen to me, listen to other people, and draw your own conclusions. I try to be as persuasive as I can. Obviously, sometimes I'm quite emotional, but that's okay, too. That's part of human nature. But he was watching Newsom in Davos attacking Trump, which was really grotesque. He really didn't have anything to say. I mean, meaning Newsom. He goes over there, and he just goes over there for the purpose of attacking Trump. So here's what Stephen A. said about it on Sirius XM this week. Cut 16, go.
Gavin Newsom, respectfully, what are you doing? You're the governor of the state of California in the United States of America. Why are you over in Davos, Switzerland, talking to folks and speaking negatively about the president of the United States? I have no problem with Gavin Newsom being candid and open about his feelings about our president on United States soil. To go over to another country, Switzerland, to go over there and to be in the presence of other European leaders speaking against the president of the United States. I'm not down with that. Y'all might be. I'm not down with that at all. Say whatever you want here as a governor from the opposite side of the aisle of a state in the United States on American soil, fine. But I'm one of those people, when we go somewhere else, it's America first. You know, our problems, our problems. But we ain't taking dirty laundry outside. You don't go on a world stage to disrespect your own house, which is the United States of America. I don't like that at all. Not even a little bit.
You know what? This is the way my dad would speak to, and the way I speak to. You might think this is old school. It's not old school. It's the right school. It's the correct school. He's not the biggest fan of President Trump. But look what he says. You're on Team America, man. Show it. Show some loyalty. Criticize the president all you want, but not overseas in front of all these leaders. I'm with him 100%. Scott Bessent is the Treasury Secretary. This guy is one smart dude. One smart dude. And he about had it with Newsom, too. Now, Newsom, you know, he thinks he's Trump in the way that he presents himself. There's only one Donald Trump, and there's only one person who can get away with being Donald Trump, and that's Donald Trump. Newsom's a chameleon. He'll be whatever you want him to be. And that's a very dangerous thing. He's destroyed that state. They're about to destroy Virginia. They've destroyed New York, Illinois, New Jersey. These are great states, folks. So many great people. But you're outnumbered. Let's listen to Scott Bessent talking about Newsom here in the United States with Politico today. Cut 17, go.
I think Gavin Newsom may be cracking up with some of these things he's saying. I think he may be in over his hairdo. And being on the national stage is very different than being governor of California with no signature achievements. But to say strange things like President Trump is a Tyrannosaurus Rex. What the hell does that mean? I could say Gavin Newsom is a brontosaurus with a brain the size of a walnut. And if he brought the knee pads, maybe that was for his meeting with Alex Soros. I don't know.
Oh, my goodness. Getting ugly out there. Getting really ugly out there. You want to hear really ugly? The Attorney General of Arizona, Chris Mays. Now, I never heard of Chris Mays before, but there's Chris Mays on News 12 yesterday in Arizona. And we're going to make sure Chris Hayes is nationally known. So you can be nationally repulsed by this person. Cat 19, go.
The other thing I want to bring up with you that I'm worried about that makes Arizona very, very different from almost every other state where this buildup is happening. Bram,
she's talking about ICE.
Your ground state. We have one of the most expansive stand your ground laws in the entire country that rivals even Florida. We also have a lot of guns in Arizona. We're a gun culture in this state. And, it's kind of a recipe for disaster because you have these masked federal officers with very little identification.
Excuse me, stop. They have ICE right on their coats, don't they, Mr. Producer? All over them. They're identified. Now look where she's going with this. Look where she's going. Look how sick this is. Look how awful this is. I told you these Democrats, they are vile, they are violent, they are hateful, power hungry. Go ahead.
Identification, wearing plain clothes and masks. And we have a stand your ground law that says that if you reasonably believe that your life is in danger and you're in your house or your car or on your property, that you can defend yourself with lethal force.
You believe this? First of all, they're not wearing plain clothes. I already said what they're wearing. They're wearing ice jackets. You can defend yourself with legal force if you think they're not who they are. She's giving people an excuse, ladies and gentlemen. Now, she's giving people an excuse. Now, I'm going to play it again, even though I hate to play it twice, just so you can digest this, because I'm sure you're shaking your head. Say, what the hell did she just say? Cut 19. I won't interrupt. Just listen. Go.
The other thing I want to bring up with you that I'm worried about that makes Arizona very, very different from almost every other state where this buildup is happening. Bram, is that we're a stand your ground state. We have one of the most expansive stand your ground laws in the entire country that rivals even Florida. We also have a lot of guns in Arizona. We're a gun culture in this state. And, you know, it's kind of a recipe for disaster because you have these masked federal officers with very little identification, sometimes no identification, wearing plain clothes and masks. And we have a stand your ground law that says that if you reasonably believe that your life is in danger and you're in your house or your car or on your property, that you can defend yourself with lethal force.
The low for the left, you never hit the low. It just gets lower and lower and lower. I'm just telling people, she said, that this could be a problem. No, you're telling people that it is a stand your ground state, that it is a strong Second Amendment state, that if people come to your door masked and not identified, that somebody might get shot. And you're saying it in the context of ICE. ICE always identifies themselves. The FBI does, the marshals do, DEA does, local law enforcement does, state law enforcement does. You identify yourself. And in the vast majority of instances, they're actually wearing the alphabet on their jacket of the agency they belong to. If it's an undercover mission, that's a different thing. But ICE mostly does this very publicly and has their identification. I'm just telling you, these people are sick. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
All right, let's take a few calls, I would say, and so I shall say. Kevin, Mystic, Connecticut. Boy, I was there many years ago. It actually was beautiful. I don't know what it looks like today. On the Mark Levin app, Kevin, how are you, sir?
Hey, Mark. You have the most intelligent show on radio.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you.
That's absolutely. I wanted to point out that every airport we go into in America has security called TSA and Customs and Immigration. Customs and Immigration is ICE. You have to present a passport or an ID or something to get on a plane, or if you're coming from somewhere foreign. It seems to me Democrat politicians such as Sandy Cortez from Westchester County, New York, want to get rid of Customs and Immigration. I mean, this is like absurd and childish. I don't get it.
It's sick, and these sickos, unfortunately, when they get in power, they do this stuff. Absolutely nuts.
Also, like if I walked into Dulles Airport in Virginia, and I started screaming and berating the Customs and Immigration folks there, I'm pretty sure I would get handcuffed and escorted to a cold jail in about 30 seconds. So I don't understand why Governor Tim Walz and these other folks and Gavin Newsom and this don't appreciate the laws on our books.
No, you're right.
Most disappointing. I gotta say.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. They wouldn't tolerate people disrupting their events. They wouldn't tolerate people in their neighborhoods. They wouldn't tolerate any of this stuff. And we saw this during the COVID-19 situation where they lived one way and the rest of us lived another way, especially Newsom and Pritzker. Pritzker's wife went on their yacht in Florida. You know, Newsom was going to restaurants and stuff like that. they're all a bunch of sleazeballs. I mean, that's the nature of Marxism and fascism and Islamism. The top dogs all live, like kings and queens, and the rest of the people suffer. Kevin, great call. I really appreciate it. Let's go to Ilan, San Francisco, California, the great KSFO. How are you?
How you doing, Mr. Mark Levin?
I'm doing well, thank you.
I would like to make a couple of points, like it's actually a question, like about the judges that refuse to sign the arrest, form.
That magistrate judge, right?
We call himself a reporter, yes. They're like breaking the law. They're not represent the law. There's nobody above them that can take them off their job because they don't perform.
The problem is, Alon, when you have a one-party city or state, the person above them is no better. And so this is where you get this, not just financial corruption, but corruption of the mind. And this is where you get tyranny in one-party states and so forth. So when you have one-party cities and one-party states, this is what you get. It's not justice. It's not the rule of law. It's who you know. And what side are you
like
on?
the Clintons, they refuse to go, to the subpoena. They're like the godfathers and the godmother, they do whatever they want, the Clinton, It's
Look what they did to Trump. Look what they did to Trump. One jurisdiction after another, federal, state, local. He fought legally against everything he could, and depending on how the courts ruled, he complied with their ruling. These two are saying, no, we're not going to appear before Congress, before a committee of Congress, subpoenas. And of course, Peter Navarro and bloated Bannon, they went to jail for resisting those subpoenas. Of course, Bannon went to jail also, or would have gone to jail also, for ripping off patriots who contributed to him because they thought he was going to build a southern wall. That's what he said he was going to do. But nonetheless, that's another issue. But you're right. The law apparently doesn't apply to them. And notice how the Democrats are absolutely silent about it. Not a word about following the law. Nothing.
Right, because they control all this. They're like the mafia, the godfather, government. They can do whatever they wanted, A judge supposed to do his job to sign, the arrest form, and you refuse. Or a criminal, the people broke the law. Seems like the police, they serve and protect. They serve as summons and protect the illegal. That's the way it looks to me, But, and one more point I want to make, not to do with that, about every place I read about, with the Palestinian, and they compare them to the people for the time of Samson and Delilah, that they were Plishtim, totally different people. They're not the same people. It's
You're right. They didn't
so-
exist. They didn't exist, and that's why they called themselves Palestinians. That decision was made in 1965 by Arafat. So by calling them Palestinians, you think that they're from Palestine originally. They're not originally from Palestine. They're not originally from that area of the world, period. They were Bedouins, been there maybe 150 years, some of them. And look, the history is so obvious, ancient history and so forth and so on. They just want to eliminate the Jews, like they want to eliminate the Christians. I mean, the Jews were there obviously first, the Christians were there second, and the Muslims were there very distant third. Now look at the Middle East. Who controls what? The Muslims control nearly everything. Nearly everything. And it's not enough. You want the tiny little country of Israel. And they want to squeeze out the Christians. And now these Islamists, they're in Europe, they're in the United States, they're elsewhere, and they're demanding that that these countries in which they have absolutely no ancestral connection comply with and comport with their ideology. So this should be the proof positive once and for all to the West that this isn't about who was where first or anything of the kind. When you have an ideology that seeks to conquer the United States and Europe and India and all these other places, that this is an ideology, the Islamist, radical Islamist ideology, that's very evil. It doesn't want to live and let live. It wants to live our way or we're going to kill you. All right, thank you for your call, my friend. We'll continue to take calls as they come in. We've got other things to cover. Just a reminder, I will be on Hannity at 9:30 p.m., I guess in about an hour. And we're doing that 2-3 times a month. I took a break for a while from it. Not because of health or anything like that, just because I've got a lot of stuff to do. We're going to do more. We had a wonderful meeting today, Mr. Producer, on the podcast, the video podcast that we're working on. I'm very, very excited about it. We're a little ways away, not too far, but we're almost there. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin, America's real influencer. Dial in 877-381-3811.
All right, here we go. Hold on now. Mr. Producer, you sent me something and I can't get it. So open it up and give me some names. XM Satellite, Ed in California. How are you, Ed?
I'm doing great, Mark. Thank you for having me on your show. I love it.
Thank you.
I'm retired law enforcement, 30-plus years out here in California.
God bless you.
And before I get to my point, I'm just so sick of our law enforcement brothers in Minneapolis who are bowing to these politicians out there. I know they want to get to work, but they're just not doing it because of the politics. But the point I want to get to is these guys, you know, when they have all these apps, they're tracking down all our ICE agents, these guys that want to do their job. I say, you know, we should all download all their apps and start sending all these crazy idiots on a wild goose chase. If they see a Democrat having dinner somewhere, tell them ICE is there and have them get a little piece of this. You know, it just makes me sick what's happening with law enforcement in these cities, because I know that they want to do their job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you're saying give them a little taste of their own medicine, huh?
Exactly. I mean, it just, you know, we're too busy going to work. We don't get paid to go protest. We're doing our stuff, you know, and we don't have time to do that. We have nobody paying us to go out and protest. But I just think that, you know, we could turn this whole thing around, download whatever they have, the apps and all this good stuff that they've got, and they're tracking our people, and just start sending these guys on wild goose chases. And I think, you know, we just have to.
I also think what I proposed the other day ought to be seriously considered. That is 3 areas of civil action: civil forfeiture, asset forfeiture, any of their vehicles are blocking the roads or whatever, confiscate them and sell them, because that's an offense. Just take them. Number 2, the federal government brings civil actions against individuals who destroy property and make them pay for it and more. And then number 3, provide legal representation to individual ICE agents who are, attacked, who are assaulted. And they can bring individual cases too. I think if you force these people to pay and their families to pay, and whoever is supporting them to pay, I think we'll get to the bottom of this very, very quickly. And I think it is a very, very good weapon, or these are good weapons that have not been utilized the way they ought to be utilized. My thought,
I agree.
Anyway.
I just think that I agree. You know, there's so many different things that we could do. You know, throw little, the spike strips out and stop these guys. Just something. It's time to fight back against these guys. I know that ICE is saying that they're coming to California. That's where I'm at. And I don't know what's going to happen once they do come in here. You know, we got Gavin Newsom, who is just an absolute joke.
Low life.
Yep. I don't know. We have to do something.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you. All right, my friend, you take care of yourself. Appreciate it. Let's see here. There were some things I wanted to... Here's a report I want to make you aware of before we go. From the Jewish Onliner report, Qatar's foreign influence in American K-12 classes, ladies and gentlemen. Qatar, their educational arm, has funneled tens of millions of dollars into American K-12 schools while avoiding foreign agent registration. They've built a influence network in our public schools across all 50 states. Across all 50 states. Now, I want you to think about that. These are not our friends. I don't care what anybody says. Certainly not our friends. In Minnesota, our friends at Just the News, John Solomon's outstanding site, Axis of Anarchy, Minnesota anti-ICE shutdown backed by DSA. That's that Mandami AOC crowd, Democratic Socialists of America, actual communists, unions, and communist Chinese-tied network. A collection of far-left activist groups, the Democratic Socialists of America, major labor unions, explicitly communist groups, and Communist Chinese-linked protest network have all organized a strike scheduled for Friday. I guess that's today. Aims to shut down schools and businesses statewide in Minnesota. To me, the important part of this story is that they're all working together. That, to me, is the most important part of the story. Democratic Socialists of America, which are Marxists. Major labor unions, more and more radical left. Not the cops, obviously, or the firefighters, but you know what I mean. Explicitly communist groups and Communist Party-linked protest network. The Radical Party for Socialism and Liberation, the PSL. And the Manhattan-based Marxist Revolutionary People's Forum are all involved. All of these elements here, some homegrown, some imported from all over the world. They are here, they are organized, they're trying to destroy us. The GOP-led House Oversight Committee voted this month to subpoena Singham for information about this sprawling activist network. Do they tell us who Singham is here? Yes, Neville Singham. He is this billionaire. He's got links and financial ties, and he's funding all these networks. I wonder if this is the guy that's in China, probably. The Freedom Road Socialist Organization, the Revolutionary Communists of America, and the Twin Cities chapter of the Communist Party USA, all avowedly Marxist groups, all listed as co-sponsors of the event. The DSA, which helped propel Mandami, including the national organization and the local Minnesota chapter, they're listed. These are all the groups that are fighting ICE, by the way. Major labor unions such as the Service Employees International Union, that's like a Stalinist group, are listed as co-hosts of the shutdown effort, while the United Auto Workers also endorsed the strike. You know, this is outrageous. The guy that runs that thing is a kook, but the United Auto Workers themselves are patriots. I don't know. They ought to replace that kook. They ought to replace the... Look at the name of these groups. Look at these groups. Just incredible. The Singham Link Network, he's the billionaire. PSL's Twin Cities chapter is listed as a co-sponsor, and it goes on, and it's affecting our schools, our teachers' unions, the whole thing. What do you think about this, America? These are groups, these aren't liberal groups in the old sense of the word. No, these are revolutionary groups. Michael, Pittsburgh, PA, on the Mark Levin app. Go right ahead, please.
Thank you for taking my call, sir. I just wanted to say I think I'm confused how Abigail Spanberger can instruct the police not to cooperate with ICE. I mean, they're a federal agency. That's obstruction of justice, isn't it?
No, if they're not assisting ICE. Now, if they were interfering with ICE, that would be another thing. But what they're doing is obviously letting predators. So the public understands. What happens is these predators, they've served time in local, county, state jails. And the local law enforcement contacts ICE. Then ICE, when they let them out, before they let them out, ICE is there to get them and to deport them, to remove them from the country. What Spanberger in Virginia, what Hochul in New York, what Newsom in California, what Pritzker in Illinois, and all the rest of them are doing, these Democrats, so-called sanctuary states and cities, is they're just letting them out. They're not informing ICE, so they're not deporting these people. And so you have people who've been convicted and served time for the most heinous of crimes. And they let them out. And they're not deported, and they're aliens. Many of them are illegal aliens. They're not even supposed to be in the country. Now they're roaming the streets. They're roaming the streets. And now they want to get rid of ICE altogether so that these people are never deported, ever. Ever. Absolute pure insanity. Thanks for your call, my friend. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Let's talk to Kenny, Nashville, Tennessee, XM Satellite. Tennessee's a beautiful state. Nashville's a beautiful city. You just had a crackpot mayor there who did all kinds of crap. Anyway, go right ahead, please.
Hey, Mark, thanks for taking my call. And originally, I live in Nashville, but I'm from New Jersey.
Yeah.
I'm from New Jersey, Nashville. I'm a retired 24-year military veteran, combat veteran, and I'm a retired police officer.
Whoa, you're a twofer.
I really, yeah, and I agree with everything you said. I've voted both ways when I was in the service for both. And as a soldier, as an airman, I was in two services. And I want to say that I agree you have a right to address your grievances with our government peacefully. You got to follow the law. If you're not going to follow our laws, that means law-abiding citizens like me, it means nothing. If I get stopped, pulled over, I'm going to present my ID. I got a military ID. I got a driver's license. I got a concealed carry permit. I got a Leosha permit that allows me to carry my gun.
You're making a great. Let me just say, you're making a great point. We all have to show our ID from time to time. And so, what if some guy has a passport he feels he needs? So what? Who cares? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but be fair. I mean, we all. I love America because I served over 8 years of my service overseas, Korea, Germany, Greece, Italy. And I say, and I'm a kid from Jersey. And I happen to be of African-American descent. I can't change that. My grandfather served in the Navy. My dad served 3 tours in Vietnam.
That's fantastic.
I love this country. Even though sometimes it doesn't live me back, I still will not trade for anything. I did everything the right way. I had a top secret clearance, and still today, you know, I'm going to be 61 on my next birthday.
Don't get mad at me. I got to go. I got a hard clock. Where are we, Mr. Producer? I'm not hearing any music. All right, we got to go. We'll be back tomorrow. I'll see you on Hannity. God bless you. We go to America every Friday in honor of you. Here we go. folks. Don't forget I'll be on Hannity in about 30 minutes on Fox. Hope you'll check it out. And don't forget, tomorrow night, a great Life, Liberty, and Levin, 8 p.m. Eastern. Set your DVR. And Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, Fox, set your DVR again. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, the men and women in Ukraine, the men and women in Israel, the men and women in Iran, and you, the great American people. God bless each and every one of you. Be safe where you're going to have bad weather. Just be careful. Good night, Spritey and Griffey. Good night, Pepsi and Smokey. Good night, Zelda and Gigi. Good night, Indy and Patton and Rory. Good night, Marty. Good night, little Barney. And good night, Mom and Dad. We're holding down the fort here. Good night, Leo. Good night, Joe. Good night, Bernard. Good night, Teddy. Good night, Lou. Good night, all the great patriots who've gone. And I salute all of you, the great patriots who are here. And I'll see you tomorrow night on Fox, Sunday night on Fox, and Monday right back here. Now be safe out there. God bless you.